In this episode of One on One, we sit down with Ian Cameron, a name associated with Canterbury harness racing for the better part of 4 decades. He's trained 350 winners, driven 500 winners, and even now trains and drives Bright Glow. She's won 12 races, keeping his name to the fore. Well, I didn't know that this day was going to come, Ian, because you're a reluctant participant, it would be fair to say, when it comes to the TV side of things.
Yes, I was. I'm not a good speaker really, so I wasn't keen to get on here. But
well, we'll find out in the next half hour or so how that goes. What was it like early life for you and the family? You were in a big family.
Yes, yeah, it was. We had a good life really, but my father always said the horses had to be fed well and the family had to be fed well. That was his thing. But yeah, it was good times with the race course next door. We backed onto the Brighton race course and lots of parties those days. We were always the last stop off for the floats from the races, and the driver would always come in, and there was always a good excuse for a party.
Always horses around you, therefore did you develop the love for them then?
Oh yeah, I always did. Yeah, right from a young age I was always around the stables and getting into trouble sometimes with. They'd find me in the paddock with a stallion there, and other times I can remember I was sitting on the where-to-wee grandstand to look over the back fence of the racecourse, and I'd be watching the horses work, and next thing this stallion had hold of my jersey and wouldn't let me go, and I'm screaming to my father, but luckily we come through it all right.
Your dad, George, he had about 120 wins in his career. What sort of horseman was he? And he drove a bit, but mainly used the good drivers, didn't he?
Yeah, I had the utmost respect for my father as a trainer, really. He was a horseman, he was good. Yeah, but I used to help him. It took me a long time to let me get in the cart. I had to get out and clean the yards out and do things like that and water the horses. And then I never drove at the old New Brighton stables when he got round the road a bit, and after he was going to retire, and then he was allowed to go and train. We trained on the beach, and I started to help him before school. Of course, we had to beat the tide sometimes. Well, sometimes he'd have me out at 4 in the morning. We'd be jogging down the road with the street lights on and just get down the beach as the sun was coming up. It was beautiful then, in the summertime. But I'd got that way. Sometimes I'd miss the first 2 periods. I missed assembly and then end up missing the first 2 periods. But it was good. I wanted to learn off my father.
What was school like, Ian? What sort of scholar were you?
No, I was in the B class, but I should have done a general course. I remember they wanted me. I was learnt French the first year. Well, I wasn't much chop at that, but so no, I wasn't much chop at school.
So when did you leave school? What was your first job?
Oh, I initially worked as a trainee salesman for Sedley Wells, believe it or not. But I was getting $28 a week. I had to catch the bus into town and back every day, and yeah. Then,
so what about your first stables?
Alistair Kerslake happened to be coming down our way for a holiday, and he had 2 horses, Loyal Adios and True Forbes, in work, and he asked me to come and work for him at Highbank. They had the old schoolhouse, and he had about 5 acres there. They had started off there, and he had Golden Guest, and they got them. They were 2 by that time at racing in the finish. Yeah. Yep.
Good early education around the horses?
Oh, I enjoyed it going to, because we used to have to go to the Methven track. We never had a track, and we just jog around the roads, or Pat O'Reilly had a bit of a track down there, and Barry Malloy had a track, but we'd go to the Methven. Sometimes we'd line up down there. There'd be 7 or 8 of us in a workout. I can remember one day lining up down there with Manaroa, and there was Black Frost, and Marius, and the other good one it wasn't Royal Ascot, it was Max Miller had one, and there was O'Reilly's had some, and it was a good education. Some of the better horses had to give us a start, but it was like a race. I enjoyed it, yeah.
What about from Kerslake's? Where did you head to from there?
I left there, and then I come home, and then a friend of mine asked me if I wanted a job at Jack Smolensky's, and so I went there.
So was that when he was based at Trent's Road?
Yes. Yep.
Opposite the Nines, straight across the road?
Trained all his winners there.
Yeah.
Well, most of them. Yeah,
there have been some good horses there when you were there?
Yes, Rapaho and Royal Belmer, 2 to name. Mickey Doo and Blackbeard were horses there.
What about your junior drivers? You got things underway in the early 70s. I think it was about 73, and you had 4 winners in that first year. And Felix Newfield was very good to you.
Yeah, he was very good. I got my trials licence at Jack's, and I wasn't there. I wouldn't have been there a year even. I don't think I was in. But he was the leading trainer that year. He carried on after, he was. But yeah, Felix gave you a lot of confidence about driving in that. He had sort of taken a back step in driving a bit then, and he would, like Graham Harris was there before me, and he used to, he gave him a lot of drives. And after I left, Fraser Kirk was there, and Fraser did well too with the driving. But Felix gave you a lot of confidence with driving, yeah.
Seafield Empress, you still remember the day?
Yes, that's for sure, I did, yeah. Led all the way, yes, yeah.
That was at Blenheim, Marlborough?
Yep.
Yep, and that was in February of 73. Your first winner for your dad, Royal Lands, but there's a bit of a story there, isn't there?
Yes, yeah, well I actually won, my first ever win was with Royal Lands at Reefton, but he ducked out right near the finish and caused a chain reaction, and someone on the outside got tipped out. I think it might have been in 4th place at the time or something like that, so I got disqualified anyway, but so anyway, that was all right.
But you got your first win for your dad. That would have been pretty special.
Yes, it was, yeah.
Yep. Pretty successful junior driver's career, actually, because back then, it's hard to compare, isn't it, with the era we're in now to what you're in then. I think you had 15 or 16 winners as a junior, but that was quite high.
Yeah, well, I didn't have it for long, because I only had it for about a year, if that, or it might have been 2, because when I left the stables and I wasn't working full time. I was back helping my father, but I wasn't working full time for him. So I still kept my licence, but it was hard to get drives. And I was just lucky. I got hold of. I used to ring up people with, horses didn't have much form, but I thought, if you got one home, well, it made you look better, and which I did with Ted Lowe. I rang him up and initially said, someone else. Robbie Burns usually drives for me, and then he hummed it out. He said, you can drive it. Hampstead, and he won, paid about $37 or something, I think it was. And then from there, he got me to drive Staveley in the boys' race at Nelson.
Yeah.
I drove all the way up there, and the Ford prefect, and after the race, he said, you can drive it the second day. I got beaten, I ran second. I'd left parked and got second. Aaron Crawford's one beat me, actually. And after the race, he said, you can drive it the second day. I thought, oh God, I was going home, because I had horses at home to look after. So I drove all the way home, then drove all the way back up for the second
Wouldn't have been
day.
a short trip either back in those days.
And he won easy the second day. Yeah. It was a good, nice horse.
You married Jocelyn in 1975.
Yep.
Tell me about how you courted her, and were you much of a romantic?
No, not really. I met her at Colin Phillippi's 21st. Fraser Kirk had taken her there with him, but because she was good friends of Loss. They lived across the road from Stockdale's, and so I met her there, and then, we were at the pub, and Fraser said to me, look, she wants to, you better ring her up, and of course after a few beers at the swamp there, I managed to ring her up, and we carried on from there.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Yep. Special day though, or, your wedding day is special, and three children, a couple of girls, and of course Kyle, so Dana and Gina, so the family was complete. Yeah.
Dana's been in Australia, she teaches over there, and she's been around, went to Tennant Creek for a few years, which, I don't know whether you've ever seen that place, but she's teaching mostly Aborigines and that, but she enjoyed it.
Yep.
Now she's in Darwin, she's married, and husband's in the police force up there in Darwin.
You need some good horses early on, and you need some good horsemen around you to get your name out there. And you started driving for Bill McDonald, which developed over the years. Patchwood was one that you got about 3 or 4 wins in the mid-70s.
Yeah. I was just out of the blue. Bill rang me up one day and said, I don't know if it was through his association with old Jim Moore, really, because Bill and Jim Moore might have put him on to me. And because Bill always had good drivers, Bob Young and Morris Holmes and Duty Townley had been driving them. And anyway, we managed to win and kept going from there.
It must have been an incredible time of your career driving against those drivers. You would have got well schooled.
Yes. I had the utmost respect for a lot of those drivers. They were good. Morris Holmes, particularly, and Jack Carmichael and them. No, they were really good. Derek Jones, they were, yeah. And Doug Watts and Bob Young, I think he was about finished then though, but yeah.
Incredible era. You won the Oaks for your dad with Swift Princess.
Yep, yeah. And
that would have been big, Ian.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, it was good, great, yeah.
So who were you working for at that stage? And we're getting towards the end of the 70s now.
I think I might have been working for Bill Doyle then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I'd gone to the freezing works to work, I thought, initially, and get some money because I had no money. Yep. And yeah, he rang me up. Well, it was just in the off season from the works, I think it was, before we were due to go back at Christmas. And he said, would you like to come work for me? And I thought, yeah, it was a good opportunity because I hadn't had much experience driving trotters. And I thought, he's got all trotters. And yeah, he said you won't get all the drives or anything like that. And I said, no, I wasn't worried about that. But he was good. Yeah, tough man, but he was really good to me.
Yep.
You know, your wages were in the mail every week. They come through us. Yeah.
Yep.
Rented an old house. He paid all the rent for the house, Cockies across the road. So.
Yeah. And
he had some nice trotters. About an hour was broken in there then. Paul Nairn used to come there and help at the weekends and holidays. And, yeah.
Yep. So this is early 80s, and you go from right bow to game command. You must have thought, this training game's a good old caper.
Well, I knew how hard it was with my father and that, and my father had always come up with a nice horse over a period at different times when you needed to, and Stylus, and he had earlier on, he had Heathmount when I was younger, which was a good filly, but...
Game command. Not big in stature?
No, he wasn't initially. He was... First horse I had to break in as a professional trainer. He belonged to Dave Peters. I'd driven the mother. She won a race in the mud at Rangiora Old Sea Day. It was the only race she won. And Dave put it to Game Command.
Game Pride, yep.
And Game Pride, sorry.
Yep.
And we got Game Command, and yeah, and he was a lovely horse. He won about 14 races, I think, for us. Won 2 Banksman Richard Trotton Cups, and I can remember winning the big race at Dunedin. It was a couple of weeks after Basildine had slaughtered us at end and went the record time.
Went 3:15.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I saw Basildine and down, I thought, this is a waste of time, we'll never win this. And he won. And the old fella Jameson came round afterwards and congratulated the chap that trained Basildine. And I said, what happened to you? Weren't you just trying? He said, we were trying all right. He said, he just didn't fire.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was, yeah. But the Banksman Richard Trotton Cups were good races, nice race. Those days it was quite a good race to win. I remember working for Bill Doyle, and he always treasured trying to win that race. But,
yeah. Which is now the DG Jones Banksman Cup, so yeah, it's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah.
You were driving plenty of winners then, Ian. I think in that 83 type season you'd driven about 24 or 25 winners, and you drove a horse as a 2-year-old called Lord Louie. Yes,
yeah, I was lucky. Frank, you know, he only had a small team of horses, but I got onto that, and he had Ashley Knight, was a beautiful 2-year-old. He was but of course they sold him for big money, but it was unfortunate. It was I drove a few nice horses, and then next thing they sold. So,
yeah. Well, he was placed in the Group 1 Sires, which is in behind Natural Guy. So he was really good in races like the Flying Stakes behind King Alba, and he was in the infamous Derby, wasn't he? The naval officer.
Yeah.
And with only 5 finished, and he finished 5th.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was pulled up to a standstill. I mean, I drew out wide, and I was looking across to see what to do, and God, it was like the charge of the Light Brigade initially, and I thought, oh Christ, I'll have to go back. And I kept out wide for some reason or other. I was just watching, and next thing was that they all went down. And I just avoided it, but I was pulled up to a standstill, and I was too busy looking at all the horses around. And then I realised, Christ, there's only about 3 more in it. And I got going, but I was half a furlong behind them, I think. And they were going that side, I caught them up. But then there's a driverless horse come up behind me. And I thought, oh Christ, I'll have to grab hold of him, because they're still laying on the track up the straight. Well, took up most of the track. So I had hold of him and then kept him on the outside of us. Then he dropped back on me, and there was one behind me who was yelling out. He thought it still had a driver. But anyway, it kept the horse out on the outer side of us. But you wouldn't believe it, we're coming up the straight, and here's this fox terrier running up the straight towards us. And I thought, no one's ever mentioned it before, but I'll never forget it. I thought, holy Christ, this is all we need. Yeah. But we sort of weren't going very fast. We had to go very slowly around them. But I'd lost too much ground at the start anyway. So.
And he won a couple of New Brighton Cups, and he always paid good money in those. But he beat horses like the Cup winner Camelot, Premiership, Freightman, Aumana.
Yeah, Aumana headed him in that. Well, it might have been the Brighton Cup, but he come again and beat him. Yeah, he was a tough horse.
Yeah, and he went to that great series, the 87 Inter-Dominion series, and he raced super.
Yeah, that was a real disappointment for me, that final, because I thought I'd looked after him in the heats and he would really gone nice, and you could feel him getting stronger each heat, because they used to say he didn't take a lot of work and didn't couldn't take up too much racing because he was a lightly framed horse, and but anyway he felt good. But going into the final, I thought, I took the lead with a round to go. Then I had this horse outside me, the Aussie horse, and this joker was under the back for the last round, and Lord Louie was up on the steel.
Yeah.
I thought, God, this is...
was that Lightning Blue?
Yeah.
The winner?
Yeah. And I thought, this is going to be easy. And all of a sudden, to remember home, it's just like turning the bloody key off. There's nothing there. And he stopped. And afterwards, I said to them, what did you do with him during the week? No, we didn't. He didn't take much. We didn't want it. We didn't, only jogged him. And did a bit of cantering. He didn't do anything. And that's what he just seemed like he was too fresh.
Those mid-80 time for you, training-wise, and that, you just had a string of these horses. Delark, Montrose, Aaron Blaze, Saucy Star.
Sherry Cam was another one, Viewfield Prince.
Viewfield Prince.
He was a lovely horse. And they all had a bit of age on them. And like the Delark was just fluky, like Peter Termy was showing me horses, and he said that chap Skinner, John Skinner, Dave Skinner from Oamaru had bought her at the sales, and he said he wants to lease it out. Have you got someone that will lease it? And Peter was on to me for quite a few weeks about it, and I said, oh, yeah. He said he'll bring it up for you. I said, oh, okay then. So he brought it up, and she hadn't had the horse. He had been trying to trot it, and because he wanted a trotter when he bought her at the sale. So, and I always remember High Lark, the mother was a 2-year-old with Pat O'Reilly when I was at Meffin, and that could go like the clappers, I thought.
Yep.
And so anyway, we just put the hobbles on, and she was just, a real racehorse.
Yeah.
But, and she'd done a lot of hard racing. To win the Eastwood Trophy, the big grandfather clock, she got the Mare of the Year at Addington. But I got it from my uncle. He'd been on to me on the coast. He lived over there, and said, get us a horse. And I said, oh, wait till I get something I think might be all right. And him and his two mates from the coast raced it. They got a lot of fun out of it.
First time you laid your eyes, or the first time you drove Starship, tell me about that.
Oh, I laid my eyes on when Bill bred him, because Bill initially had the mare. I talked to him, and the owner of that breed was from Oamaru, and he died, and the mare the Star Nurse was going up for auction and that, and I said to Bill, oh, you should buy her. Oh, well, I'm too old to be breeding. I don't want broodmares, he said, at my... I said, I reckon it'd be bloody great at your age to have a broodmare and that. And so anyway, he got it, and he said, what'll I go to? And I said, oh, Lordship. Well, he went to Albatron first and got Ian Mack,
Yep.
I think it was. And then he went to Lordship. He might have gone to Lordship initially, and she lost the foal. She couldn't qualify. We tried to qualify her again, and she had no speed, Star Nurse, but her mother had speed to burn, was Murano Star. It was out of Grice's breed. She was a Murano mare. But anyway, then he got back to Lordship, and when you saw Starship in the paddock as a foal, I thought, oh, God, what a horse. And I broke him in as a weanling for Bill. I'd broken Ian Mack in as a foal as a weanling. And when we broke him in, I said to Bill, this is a damn good horse. How do you know? I said, well, I don't know what it is. I said, there's something about him.
Yep.
And he said, well, you can train him for me. I said, oh, no, I think I'd prefer to just to drive him, Bill. Oh, right. And so he said, I don't want good horses like that. He said, I just like them old scrubbers to get and play around with. But I said, no, it'd be great at your age. So I'd love to get one at your age to do that. And then when I broke Starship, and I said to people, I said, I can't believe it. He's got another damn good horse.
Yeah, he won on debut, and then he ran into a pretty smart one.
To a bigger
night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we were getting second line draws, and to a bigger night we were always getting the better draw a lot of the times, I felt. But anyway, yeah.
Yep.
But we still won a lot of races without. If Tuapeka Knight hadn't been there, he would have been a champion, Starship.
Yeah. We move into the 90s, and you had some bandy horses, didn't you? Speedy Lord, Full of Promises. Top Day, I remember winning 4 or 5 races.
Yeah, Top Day was, he could go.
Yep.
Yeah. And Laughing Jokes was a really nice mare bought from America, a good But initially, when we broke, she never had any speed whatsoever initially, but the speed come to her later on. Yeah, she did a
She won
good
about
job.
4 races.
Yeah, didn't have a lot of starts.
Gina's brightest. She won a Trotting Oaks, and
Yeah,
it's
and
been a good breed, hasn't it?
yeah, but she was. I shouldn't have gone on as long as I did. She injured her. She wasn't a good traveller in the float and that, and in fact, sometimes I got the transporter to take her once to. Or she went to Auckland, and they said to me, "Oh God, she kicks like hell." I said, "Yeah, she does at home."
Was that about the time when you got first, second and third in a race, and she was second, wasn't she?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, we took 3 up there.
What won it? Ragatawa Finale?
Yeah. Jimmy Curtin drove her, and
Yep.
Ricky May drove old Egan Rum, and he reckons he should have won it because I took his posse up the straight or something.
Poor old Rick. He's had a horrible time in the game, hasn't he? 7 New Zealand Cups and all that sort of thing.
Moaned like hell.
Kyle's involvement in the sport must make you and Jocelyn pretty proud. He's doing well, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he started. I didn't like. He went to the university and got a degree in that, and then he started working. He specialised in hotel management. That was one thing he wanted to do, and he worked in. But I wanted to just get involved because I see it's a good hobby for you to have. And then anyway, he went and worked for Mike Austin, and from there he went to, because he won a trip to Aussie with the junior drivers thing or whatever it was he went over there and worked for John Caldo, and then he come back home and he worked for Greg Hope. He worked for me. We went for Greg Hope and then to me, I think it was. Yep. And then I said, I said, you better take over training. I don't want to be hiring anyone or giving any orders. So he took over.
Kyle, describe your dad as a horseman to me. What are some of his great attributes?
Oh, he's pretty, he's old school. He's discipline's key, and he's very skilled. He does things properly. Takes the time and does things properly.
What about to drive for, and how special it was when you drove Galleon's Ambition? Not to win your first race, but your first race for him.
Yeah, that was actually my first drive back when I come back from Australia. So Mum was pretty pumped up about it. Dad probably more reserved, but no, it was definitely a good buzz. Remember, he gave me a few instructions. Don't hit the horse. I think I waved the whip that much at it without hitting it. I got an excessive use fine without ever hitting the horse. That's probably a first. But it was pretty cool.
$40 too, paid. So
yeah, she was just a handy horse that was very good to me when I started driving. Mum and Dad were very good to put you on every week, and you'd learn from your mistakes, and Dad was pretty good at pointing them out. I remember Jimmy Curtin saying for me when he used to drive occasionally, and he'd say, he was good because if your stuff went up, he told you, and you knew where you stood, and that was it. It was done, and that's sort of how he is, really.
What about this mare he's got at the moment, Bright Glow, and how much joy she's brought to your mum and dad? And I'm talking about on the track, because off the track she's a bit more of a challenge. Yeah,
definitely. She's a very, very difficult horse to deal with. Good in the car. That's probably testament to Dad's education of her in that respect. A lot of trainers you wouldn't bother with her, and yet she's won over 100,000. But yeah, just it's a very tough breed, and Dad's done a really good job with a lot of those horses because they're all very, very tough right from the day you take them off the mother,
What about your own career? You've trained over 50 winners now and driven over 100, so you're carrying on the family dynasty. Happy with where we're at the moment. I've been very fortunate. Dad's done very well in his time, and it's got a great property here that's big enough to accommodate me as well, so that's given me the kickstart I need, very fortunate for that. This property here at Fernside, you've been here for the better part of 40 years?
Yeah, I was lucky that we got a rural bank loan. We were one of the first trainers. I don't know whether any other, I don't know whether a rural bank exists there anyway, but we were in a home ownership account, Jocelyn and I, and one night we were walking around town in Christchurch and went past the Canterbury Savings Bank, and they had a scheme up the winter, farm ownership scheme. I said, that's what we should be in, not home ownership. We went in to see the bank manager, and it was late at night, they were just about closing, and I said, look, we're in a home ownership scheme, we've been in it for a couple of years. Do you think they'd deduct that time off of the farm ownership scheme was 5 years? And he said, I don't know, he said, it'd be worth a try, you want me to look into it for you? And I said, it'd be very good of you. And anyway, next thing they come back, and was just lucky that John McDermott worked in the Rural Bank at the time, and he said to me later on, he said his boss came to me and said, do you know this fella? Because I'd known John from when I was at FedEx, as we trained for his father and that. And yeah, so they let us do that, and you got a free government grant with the money. You had to save so much money per year and that. But even when the time come up, to get it, they said, John said, there's no guarantee they'll still lend you the money.
Yeah.
He said the best thing is to go and sort out a place first and then come to us. So we did that, and they kept us waiting right up to the last day of letting us know we'd had this place signed up subject to finance, and yes, and they okayed it. So we were very lucky because the interest rates were very low then.
Yeah.
Not for they'd shot up to hell. It was the ruination of some poor people. Like they were around 19-20% they were paying or more. And ours was 7.5, so it was a big help.
This mare that you've had so much fun with, both on and off the track, we'll touch on a little bit of that, Bright Glow. She's, I suppose, kept your interest up, and obviously Kyle doing what he's doing, but gee, she's been a remarkable horse for you guys. She's won 12 races now.
Actually, 12, yeah. Well, it's the handicapping system.
But she just slides up and down the grade. It's almost perfectly.
Yeah, that's great.
As soon as she gets into under rating 55, she basically can win again.
Yeah.
But she's won over 100,000.
Yeah.
Great money spinner.
Yeah, just helps buy the groceries each week now.
She can be slightly cantankerous though, can't she?
She's got worse over time. But just not so bad at home. I can get her up at home on my own and get her in the cart and everything. She's good, but always you got to be wary every morning undoing the leg straps or afterwards, and she's biting or kicking if you're trying to do the.
Isn't that the sign of a good mare quite often though?
Yeah. Well, that's it. You put up with it, but race day, she's worse, especially after the race.
She's won a few at Addington. Have you got a favourite one? When Kyle drove her recently to win. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was good. And not really. They were all good. Yeah. She was. Mark Harrell won with her. Once she won easy that day at Mochikorau. It was good to see her. Yeah, go good for those younger drivers. And that because she can be such a cantankerous thing, but she got on good. Kieran Tomlinson drove it and went good, and Sarah Riley drove it. She went good race. Didn't win, but they got placed.
You've trained over 300 winners. You've driven over 500 winners. Would you say the game's been good to you?
Yes and no. I mean, it did. Years ago, we saw the best of it then, and that's what used to brass me off. You could see it going downhill, steadily going downhill. But in recent years, like now, every starter gets paid. I mean, that's a great thing for the owners and trainers.
What about the future, Ian? What lies ahead horse-wise for you and the family, and keep Kyle going? I mean, he's driven over 100 winners himself now. He's actually doing a super job. Yeah,
and he's finding it hard at times. Everyone does. It's rosy when you're winning, and but you get these viruses and that, it can set you back a bit, and it holds things up. You got the driving fees. You're relying on the driving fees a lot to keep you going. And having if you haven't got a good horse, it's very hard to. He's lucky. Greg Hope's good to him. He gives him a lot to break. In fact, he's good with the breaking in. He's been a lot of people like to give him horses to break in. He's had some for Brian O'Meara and that, and different ones, and he's pretty patient. And he puts up. He's had some rough ones, but he puts up with them. And
he's got some breeding in that regard. Your dad was a pretty good horseman, and
my father was very good. Yeah,
and you learned a lot off him, and now Kyle's learned clearly off you. So
yeah. But I could get short in the fuse at times. But no, he's sticking to it. He's got the right attitude, temperament. Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time and having a chat to us. Great to have a chat about some of those wonderful horses you've had over the years. And it's not finished, is it? It's not over, this game for you.
No, I only train a few of our own now, and we breed the odd one. I think I'll breed from Bright Glow, sorry. I'd like to go to Royal Aspirations with him. I kept saying, so we've got to pay up that $1,500 before. I don't want to pay the
before it gets, it's going to get a bit higher, isn't it?
Yeah.
Man, he's doing a job.
Yeah, well, I've always liked him as a racehorse and everything, and he's doing a good job. So I've gone to the deer sires before, Love You and Sierra Cosmos and things like that, and they were never much chop, so I'm better to go to the cheap ones now.